Hello, my friends. Dr. Gabe Roberts, the Subconscious Healer, here today with another message, another video on breaking free from chronic pain and chronic symptoms. Today's topic is going to be about the placebo. Before we get into that, you can see a unexpected visitor coming up my driveway here. So before we get into that, let's take a moment to give our brain and body a signal of peace. How do we do that? Go ahead and place our hand right over our heart. Put all our attention and awareness there, and we're going to take 3 long breaths. Exhaling longer than we inhale for. And we finish off with a wonderful sense of gratitude. So very important to find with your attention, with your focus, a moment in your life when you really felt grateful, and recruit that moment, step into that moment and bring those feelings right back into your body. Those 3 things there allow your heart and brain to become completely coherent, and it literally shifts and changes the entire biochemistry makeup of your body for up to 6 hours. And again, thanks for the research from Heart Math Institute. Don't mind the music in the background. There's a FedEx truck parked right over here, dropping off a package. So it's just one of these, it's one of the things that happens when you're out here in the Ozarks and you have an unexpected mail delivery, probably something to do with Christmas presents already starting to arrive. Oh boy, right? So let's talk placebo, okay? Proof. The placebo is literally proof that the mind and body are connected. And furthermore, it's proof that when you give the mind the right directions, that the body can have phenomenal changes. And like I mentioned before, this can be kind of a thorn in the side of medicine. And why that is because modern medicine, to a large part, does not recognize or support the idea that thoughts alone can make you sick, or that thoughts alone can actually heal you. And of course, there's an astounding amount of literature on this, and this is by no means any kind of new idea. Socrates, who's considered the founder of Western philosophy, he died in 399 BC, so thousands of years ago. He said there is no illness of the body that's separate from the mind. There's no illness in the body that's separate from the mind. What a remarkable statement thousands of years ago. And yet still, we have very difficult time today, some of us do, accepting the fact that our mind and body are in fact one. And so earlier I was just kind of thumbing through and I was looking at some literature and some surprising things that I've noticed over the years. And the surprising things that I find while reading is that although doctors of all kinds have difficulty recognizing the power of the mind and body together, they have noticed it. Don't let that fool you. Doctors behind closed doors, and yes, I'm sitting outside, as you can see all the beautiful Ozark colors around me, but I'm also surrounded by a bunch of ladybugs. So there's ladybugs flying around. So don't be surprised if you see one buzz by in front of the camera, or even maybe land on my face. Give you a reason to chuckle at me today. But doctors know this. They know there's something there. And because they're not taught in their curriculum, and this is something that is oftentimes discouraged actually in teaching, it's dismissed. But there's the curious ones behind closed doors, having dinner together, having lunch together. Doctors will whisper to themselves about people that have healed in ways that they aren't even sure what happened. People's kidneys improvements, or people's kidneys start functioning, completely different when the person has something shift in their life, or there's an improvement in something like irritable bowel, something that Western medicine will say that there's actually no cure for, and suddenly a person has significant improvement in their digestion, and the doctors are just kind of fumbled, and they're questioning what happened and why, but they're not doing it to the patient, they're doing it in secret. Okay, so don't think that just because nobody's telling you about this that they don't recognize the real phenomena of mind and body connection. I was just kind of thumbing through some literature, and I came across a woman who actually had ovarian cancer, and she went in to get radiation, and they had verifiable tumors in her ovaries. She went in, had the process of radiation done, and then they did the follow-up, and they noticed that the tumors were indeed shrinking. So it seemed like the treatment of radiation had helped, until they realized that the machine that actually generates the radiation had malfunctioned, and had been malfunctioning for months, and she actually received no radiation at all. So this is recorded in the literature, and it's just one of those phenomenons that just is astounding. This woman's belief actually is what healed her. Her belief in the process, her belief that she actually could heal from this with the treatments. And of course, belief is so powerful that it's been also documented that people with multi-personality disorders, where they feel in such pain and such agony in their life that their subconscious mind, their brain has no choice but to create an alternate personality for them to allow themselves to deal with the agony. Well, they've watched and recorded and documented interesting cases with these people, and there's cases where when a person shifts personalities, their eye color actually changes. Okay, so how does something that would be considered genetics shift when a personality changes, right? That's the power of belief. I also know of cases in the literature where multiple personalities, where one of the personalities is a diabetic. They have trouble with blood sugar, okay, and they even have verifiable through lab work and history diabetes when they're a particular personality, and when they shift to a different one, blood sugar completely stabilizes. Even more surprising, I came across a story once where a person actually had cancerous tumors growing as a multiple personality. When they would shift in the other personality, the tumors disappeared. When they would go back to the other personality, the tumors reappeared. So our mind and body cannot be separated. They are one and the same. And I'll just share one more with you that's quite fascinating. There's a group of doctors that were once using a type of chemotherapy to treat aggressive non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and this chemotherapy was called EPOCH, and it has an acronym for something. You can just look it up online. I don't quite remember what it stood for, but EPOCH. And of this group of doctors using this treatment, they were having mixed results, just as you can imagine with chemotherapy and radiation. If you look at the literature, if you actually looked at the statistic results of having it, it's pretty low success rate. I've seen anywhere from 10% to maybe 12% at tops of success rate with those kind of treatments on cancer. But one particular doctor in this group using EPOCH actually had much higher success rates with his clients, with his patients that had cancer. And this got the attention of others in the group, and they started to ask this doctor, what's going on? Why are you getting better results than we are? And it was very surprising. The doctor made one little twist, one little alteration. Instead of EPOCH on the actual chemotherapy drug, he rearranged the words so it said HOPE, hope. And he shared that with them. So when he would have a patient with him, he said, we're going to use hope today. This is going to be your treatment. We're going to use hope today. This is going to be your medicine. And just that shift alone was likely responsible for the increase in success he had with his clients. So today's message is very simple. The mind and the body are one, and we oftentimes think that we are stuck with our beliefs. Our beliefs are like these unquestioned commands that live deep within us that really dictate what we get out of life and what we do and what we accomplish. And many times we are trapped in the notion that these things are just how they are, just how I am. It's how things are always going to be. It's how things were with my mom and dad, and my grandma and grandpa, and things aren't going to be the same. These are unquestioned beliefs. But here's the thing: when you start to question them, and specifically question them in a format of first eliciting pain and then pleasure, you can actually make those beliefs become much more wobbly. So what do I mean by pain and pleasure? Think about a time in your life when you're trying to do something, when you're wanting to do something, when you have a desire to achieve something, and you know what you need to do it. And it could be an improvement in your health, it could be an improvement in your relationships, it could be an improvement with the relationships with your kids, it could be going on a vacation, starting that business, asking for the promotion. It could be a number of things. So in that context, you know what you need to do, and you know what needs to happen for you to do that, but you don't do it, right? You don't do it. Happens to a lot of people. Why? Because there's something about that the nervous system, that the brain senses as painful, and so they will not do it. And that belief, oftentimes there's something within that belief that's eliciting that unconscious pain. But if you start asking yourself sometimes painful questions like, why is it that I'm not doing this? What's keeping me from taking the steps necessary? What am I afraid of? What is preventing me from taking this action? When you start to ask those painful questions, you'll start to get some answers that start to come up. And this is a practice like anything else. And then you flip it and you start asking the positive questions. And that is like, what would be the consequences of me doing this? What would the outcomes be for myself if I actually asked for that promotion, if I started the business? What would be the benefits if I actually healed this pain, if I healed this illness, if I actually healed my body and I could start doing things, going on vacations with my kids, participating in activities that I've not been able to do before? What would be the benefit of me actually starting this relationship, right? When you start asking those questions, you get an entirely different set of answers, and you get an entirely different set of feelings. And so it's important for us to address the painful ones and the pleasurable ones in order for us to start creating a wobbly foundation for those beliefs. When we don't question them, they stay solid. The minute we start to question those beliefs, they become very, very flimsy. And that's when you are embarking on the journey of transformation. Okay, so take time to sit with yourself, ask those questions, and realize that it's your beliefs that really control what you're going to accomplish in your life. And when you start to understand that your mind and body are one, and you start to work with your mind more, and by pulling the rug out from underneath his beliefs, okay, you can actually have massive transformations in your life that you never even dreamed of. But it all starts with starting to understand the mind and body are one, and beliefs are changeable. And when you start to question them, the foundation of them starts to become more wobbly and eventually crumble. Okay, so I will see you tomorrow, friends, with a wonderful message of how to break free from chronic symptoms, chronic pain, those kind of things. Enjoy the rest of your day.